What's going on YouTube? This is AK and you're watching Vlog More. And today I wanted to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart as a firearm enthusiast, because it's played a very instrumental role in my life as a firearm owner and a lot of other Americans' lives as well. And that is the 380 ACP. Okay? This caliber is a widely debated caliber. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it, and it just seems to be a very misunderstood caliber in a lot of circles. But I am here today to make what some may consider a bold claim that a 380 ACP is the best caliber that you can use for concealed carry. The best. And I would go as far as to say it would exceed very, very well in a home defense role as well. Because if it's the best for concealed carry, then of course it's going to work fine for home defense, for a handgun. If you wanted a one-stop shop for just what caliber you can use both in the streets, in your home, just an all-around versatile caliber. But mainly we're going to focus on why it's best for concealed carry, okay? And why I believe it's the best caliber for that. So let's get into a few things first. So I've spoken to a lot of people who, have very differing opinions about this caliber. But me personally, growing up in a law enforcement home, my father's retired law enforcement, and 380 has been a caliber that he has sworn by, that he's utilized throughout his career. Now, of course, 9mm and 40 caliber is also very popular, of course, in the law enforcement community. But I specifically remember 380 being kind of like that Goldilocks round. And as far as his perspective of it being in law enforcement and them doing their own studies when it comes to ballistics and that type of thing. So for me, 380 has always been a viable round for self-defense. But then going outside of the home, speaking to other individuals who may not have had as much experience with 380, they feel that it's a very anemic round. And whenever I asked them why they felt that way, there was never a good explanation as to why. And generally, answers came back around the realm of, well, a guy who knew a guy who met a guy said that he shot a guy with a 380 and it bounced off of his t-shirt or his jacket or whatever story that you can fabricate. And I'm sure some of you have probably read these type of wild stories on forums, okay? Maybe even heard a couple YouTube videos spout this type of misinformation. But I'm here to tell you, okay, right here, right now, that if you ever walk into a Bass Pro, an Academy, Field and Stream, Cabela's, pawn shop, what have you, and you're speaking to the guy behind the counter or gal, and they tell you that 380 is not a viable round for concealed carry, I would highly recommend everything they say from there on out should not be taken seriously. Probably should get advice somewhere else about whatever it is you were trying to find out about, because that individual hasn't done their homework and they probably got that information from some drinking buddies and have no idea what they're actually talking about. Now, there are studies on the 380 that have been conducted, and so what I'm about to tell you, as far as we know right now, is law. It's not an opinion, it's the numbers. So I'm going to break down for you exactly what it is that the 380 is capable of and what the numbers show on paper. And that's what's most important when it comes to 380 ACP, what the numbers show. And you know, as they always say, whether it comes to sports or what have you, the numbers don't lie, right? So let's get into that. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, there is an individual, retired police officer, Greg Elifritz. Okay, the guy is a master instructor, just a weapons specialist. Okay, and this individual did what a lot of people who you're going to talk to and try to get advice from, what they didn't do. Okay, and he spent 10 years, okay, over the course of about 10 years, studying over 1,700 accounts of shootings, whether it be civilian involved or military. He attended, autopsies, spoke to people who were actually involved doing the shooting, defensive shooting and things of that nature, and looked at all of the reports that he could find in terms of what was the most advantageous calibers for self-defense. Now, unless you know someone who went and did that type of work to find out what's the best calibers, for self-defense, they really don't have any weight behind their opinions. We're talking about the numbers here. And Greg Elifritz, as of right now, is the authority on what is the most effective rounds for whether it be home defense or concealed carry defense when you're out there in the street. So what exactly did Greg Elifritz find? Well, this is what's extremely interesting. First, we're going to start with incapacitation success. Now, if you look at this picture here, it shows 38 special, 380 ACP, 45 ACP, 9mm, 357 Magnum, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 44 Magnum. Now, these are pretty much the most popular center fire cartridges that are on the market. Okay. We can debate if 10mm should have been put in there and some other ones, whatever. But for the most part, these are the most popular. Okay. So, as far as, again, center fire cartridges are concerned. Now, what was found for incapacitation success, okay, is that the 380 ACP was 84% effective compared to 87% 9mm 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum, 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, for some of you who want to nitpick, oh, well, those 3 percentage points, they're huge. No, they're not. Actually, what that shows us is they're literally the same. Okay? So, from 380 ACP all the way to 44 Magnum, the incapacitation success rate, okay, regardless of the number of hits, they're the same. Okay? 84% for 380, all the way to the highest, which is 87% for 9mm 357, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 44 Magnum. Now, that is pretty darn impressive, if you ask me, especially from a cartridge that fits in smaller firearms that make it easier for them to be carried, okay? And also for a cartridge that is way easier to shoot than its larger relatives. So that in itself is extremely impressive. Okay? Now, if we look at one-stop shots or one-shot stops, right? What we have is that 380 actually is on the higher end of the diagram when it comes to one-shot incapacitation. Okay, this is of course head and torso. 380 actually outperforms 45 ACP, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 44 Magnum, 22 long rifle, 357 Magnum. Okay, 380 ACP outperforms in that regard. Okay, again, for people who are saying that the 380 ACP is an anemic round, well, the numbers do not show that. The numbers show the actual opposite. Again, people who are not willing to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, they're not going to understand these statistics here. But you watching this video will have a better understanding, and now you will be able to go into, a purchase of a 380 firearm with the utmost confidence, regardless of whatever you're being told, because you have the numbers in front of you. Okay, so let's go to the next diagram here, which is, to me, this is actually where things really start to bear fruit. Now we're talking about the fail rate, the handgun average, the fail rate, okay, incapacitation failure regardless of number of hits, okay? Now, that's where you start to see the men from the boys in terms of calibers, right? Your 32 ACP, your 25 ACP, and your 22 long rifle, they fail to incapacitate at half the rate as the other centerfire cartridges, okay? However, when you look at 380, 380 performs better than 38 Special. Now we're talking about, 13% for 9mm as opposed to 16% for 380. That's a 3% difference. Again, when you're talking about percentage points that are that small, you're safe to say across the board they perform at the same rate. Sure, you get 3 percentage points advantage from a 9mm, a 44 mag, 40 Smith & Wesson, that type of thing. But a 3 percentage points performance is phenomenal. Now remember, in this particular diagram, the lower numbers are better. However, as you can see, 380 still performs at the same rate, given 3 percentage points difference to the other calibers, its bigger brothers, okay? These numbers are stunning. For those of you who have shot 380 at the range and knows how smooth 380 shoots, it's easier to be more accurate with it. You literally have a Goldilocks round that's able to perform at the same rate as the other larger calibers that generally tend to fit in larger frames, making them more difficult to carry. But you have a round that fits in a smaller package, if you choose to have a smaller package, and you can shoot more accurately and performs at the same rate. That's literally the perfect round. And for those of you who said, well, I still don't buy it. I mean, when I compare a 45 caliber to a 380, the difference, and even with a 9mm, the difference is just staggering. I don't know. I don't feel very comfortable. Well, I have one more diagram to show you. Here are the measurements, length, width, okay, circumference, all that good stuff, of the 380 ACP compared with the 9mm and the 45 ACP. Now, as we can see here, the 380 ACP is 78% the size of a 45 caliber ACP bullet. Again, our eyes tend to deceive us sometimes, right? If you see a 380 ACP on the counter next to a 45 and, your brain tells you initially, out of survival, well, I'm going to go with the larger round. Might be harder to shoot, might have more recoil, might be more difficult for you to manage, but your mind will go to the larger caliber a lot of times because, well, bigger bullet must mean more chance for dead, right? But no, you have to be able to look at the gray area. And 380 ACP being 78% the size of a 45 caliber, that's a pretty good compromise. It's, only 3 percentage points more than 3/4 of a 45, but hey, 3/4 of a 45 caliber is not that bad. So when you look at it from the mathematical standpoint, okay, the measurements, in addition to the performance of the round, now you have a winner, and you can't really go wrong with that. So I want y'all to really think about that, okay? You've got a round that's easier to shoot than 9mm and above, and it has the same effectiveness, and it has the same ineffectiveness that the other rounds also carry with them. So I'll ask you, for people who are fans of Glock 26 because it holds 10 rounds and it's a 9mm, okay, fine. Great choice for concealed carry. Maybe in like the early 2000s, right? And this is a favorite of mine, one of my favorites. I love the Glock 26. However, when you then compare the Glock 26 to the Ruger LCP Max and see how much of a difference this is, this firearm has a higher capacity than this one does. And now that we see the numbers behind how effective the 380 is compared to the 9mm, what makes more sense to carry? A Ruger LCP Max with a 12-round magazine plus one in the chamber, or a heavy, cumbersome Glock 26 that eventually you'll probably get tired of carrying, because why would you want to carry something that heavy when you could have something this light? Now, we can get into the debate of, well, Rugers aren't as reliable as Glocks are, and I'll give you that in a lot of regards. I mean, Glocks are combat pistols. However, we're not in combat. We're civilians going about our day-to-day lives, the grocery store, the gas station, wherever you are. And Rugers are exceptional weapons, so are Bursas as well. I mean, for their intended purposes, for civilian use, these weapons are amazing. Matter of fact, the Bursa Thunder 380 is Argentina's side weapon, the military, okay? So that's what they use. So it's not like these weapons are just like not, if we're talking about reliability, it's not like they're ineffective. They're reliable, You get lemons with all guns, right? But when you're talking about sensible gun ownership, 13 rounds of a caliber just as effective as a 9mm and 44 mag and 357 Magnum, or a bulky, cumbersome 9mm with 10 rounds plus one in the chamber, right? You see where I'm getting with this? It's literally, the only thing I can really think of to say is it's a Goldilocks round that it's just right. Smooth shooting, easy to be accurate with, and just as effective. Of course, it might not be as cost effective as some of the other rounds, but then again, it's cheaper than a lot of the other rounds that I've also named. So with that said, I think I put a pretty convincing case for the 380 ACP. I want to, give a shout out to Rational Prep because that channel on YouTube, Rational Preps, they, you know, of course, covered these topics as far as, you know, the diagrams and all that's concerned. And you can really get a good sense of, you know, how effective all these rounds are, and that there really isn't all that much difference until you get into the mouse calibers. And I would even like to do a video on the 22 long rifle and you know, why it is a good you know, caliber for self-defense, depending on what your budget is, right? So I hope that you guys took a lot away from this video. I do appreciate y'all taking the time to watch it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all later. Peace.